Way to start your day.
YouTube and on X. Karibu Sana, thank you for joining us today. As we get into a number of conversations, we'll do that, and we're going to be looking at politics of moles. Everybody is a mole. Everybody is not sure what side that they're on. Goons and the road to 2027. We're going to talk about that today. One of our guests is in the studio already for us to then be able to do that, and we'll be joined by the other in a short while. Professor Alfred Omenya is a policy and governance expert, and he's here this morning, and to some extent, he's not happy. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, Du.
How are you?
Very well.
Yes?
Yeah, how is it going?
Well, you know how they say.
Yes. Very true.
We keep plodding along.
Correct.
Karibu Sana, we're going to look into some of these things because it seems as though, there was a funeral over the weekend,
right,
and it turned out that, you don't come alone, you come wind-assisted, but in this case,
correct,
you come wind-assisted with goons.
Correct.
That where you're going in any political function, goons seem to be the thing that you come along with.
Correct.
And then we lose all kinds of respect for certain processes. And then also, we are concerned about the people that you keep company with, whether they're actually on your side or not. Is this all normal? Should these be the things that we expect in politics? Those are the conversations that we'll be having this morning with you, so thank you for being here. Dennis this week took us to Eritrea.
Yes. Outside Asmara, there is something that is called a tank graveyard that represents the 30 years of fighting to gain independence from Ethiopia. That is in 1993. They don't have a constitution. Many call it the North Korea of Africa because of how closed it is.
Right.
If you're planning to visit, just make sure you have money because the ATMs are zero. If you want to connect with us, just go to enjoy a good time because internet connectivity as well is a problem. But let's go to the proverb. You can graduate with honors and still lack common sense. How would you interpret it?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Karibu, Mheshimiwa Mtambu. This is really very, 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 very interesting that you say that. I'm actually one of those advocates of that same proverb. Many times, I've always likened university degrees with a receipt for bread. Where you send a kid to the shop to buy bread and tell him, please get a receipt. And this kid goes and just gets the receipt and no bread. So there's nothing for people to eat. So many university degrees are like that. They are receipts with no bread. People go, they get the piece of paper. These days, we even have Honorable Dr. Prophet from, I don't know, University of what. But if you check what this guy has, the guy in the village who had actually no education has better sons. So I think it is time that we actually make our education matter. We need to focus on the substance of education, which is the bread. Not on the evidence of education, which is a piece of paper. Given that evidence can be rigged, especially by politicians. We are giving them degrees every day. Mheshimiwa, have you gotten a doctorate yet? Please send your M-Pesa. I'll send you a doctorate by mid-morning.
Well, that's okay because Dr. Mheshimiwa Joe Mutambu is here this morning.
Yes. We are in Eritrea today, and the proverb that I get from them, and that is a subject for you to interpret as well, says, you can graduate with honors and still lack common sense. How would you interpret it?
You can graduate with everything because if you are dwarf, education may give you knowledge, but it may not give you wisdom. You don't get wisdom from school. No university in this world will give you wisdom.
It's very true.
You will get education. You will know how to read. You will know how to pronounce. You will know geography. You will know history. But if you are not wise, and if you are not born to be a leader, you will not become a leader because you have a PhD. No.
Okay.
You will still remain who you are with education. You will be educated fool.
Where?
Yes.
Iko mambo.
You will be educated fool. In terms of leadership,
Right.
if you want to venture in leadership, don't do so because you have 3-4 degrees. Don't do so because your bank account has big balance. Don't do so because you are popular from maybe a comedy show or from being a musician.
Right.
If we have those crop of leaders, then we don't have leaders.
Iko shida.
Well said.
We
True.
don't.
If you care, Nani.
So the issue here is not education.
Yeah.
Correct.
The issue here is the quality
Correct.
of leadership.
Correct.
And that one is not gotten in school.
No.
You are born with it.
Correct.
And that's why if we have Christians here, you remember God sent somebody to go and crown a king somewhere. And the people were brought with big chest, huge ones. I said, no, not this one. There is somebody somewhere. Do you have that small one? Go bring this one. Yes, this is the one which is anointed to be the king, and is the one who has the qualities, not the one who has big chest or who has I don't know how many camels and how many what. So where we go wrong, it is because we believe. Once I become popular from my activities which I do out there, then people either laugh me.
Right.
I throw myself into the ring. I say I want to be a member of parliament. I want to be a senator. I want to be either president or whatever. But do you have leadership qualities? That is the issue.
Well said.
Very well said. And I guess we can, jump off of that into our conversation this morning, because it would appear as though there's many a politician today who feels as though, oh, that's not important. What's important is the number of people that I have around me, the proverbial political posse, as it were. And for some reason, James Nikal said something in a funeral last week that has stuck in my head. And he said, why are we not able as politicians to walk alone? Why? You must come with people who are going to rabble rouse? Must you have a situation whereby it seems as though now, if you're a politician and you have a group of goons who is going to help you do a certain, kind of activity, that's when you're popular. If you do have the fat bank account, that's when you're popular. Are we missing the point, Professor Omenya?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're totally missing the point, and at this point, I was just reflecting on this, and you look at countries that are decent. Let me call them so, and I particularly look at Nordic countries, and I once took Kenyan politicians, their governors, and Governor Ruto then was the chair of the council. I took about 20-something governors there. And when we were waiting to meet the Prime Minister, I told them that, look, the train stopped and Parliament is actually across the train station. So I tell them that the guy walking in is the Prime Minister of Sweden. Of course, they ignored me. They felt, despite the fact that I'm the one who had taken them to Sweden.
Yeah.
Nobody bothered. It's like they didn't hear what I'd said. Then this guy comes, carrying a newspaper, and a briefcase, sits down amongst, there was an interview happening on the floor of Parliament, ran by journalists inside of Parliament. And now the lady who was running the interview, told people that, look, the Prime Minister is here. Now you can pick your numbers, those who want to ask questions. That's when Ruto looked at me, the other Ruto, not William, Isaac. So Ruto looked at me and said, Alfred, that's the Prime Minister. I said, yes, I told you that's the Prime Minister. And so he told me, no wonder these guys are developed. The Prime Minister was actually walking alone. He was in the train alone, carrying his briefcase and minding his own business. But Honorable Mtambu here and whatever, wherever they move, they now have this crowd that moves before them, kicking people and destroying things and doing whatever. It's backwardness. It is extreme backwardness. I've had occasion to experience this in two instances, which were just ridiculous. One of them was a meeting of ODM. I don't want to say the context because of emotional issues. And one of my friends, who's an aspirant, and I was with him, had been blocked. And guess what he was told? He was referred to these guys, and And fellows had blocked the gate where the meeting was happening. It was referred to these fellows who told him, no, there's no problem, Mheshimiwa. You follow us. And these guys had a reinforced Prado. And that guy is hanging out of the Prado. And they drove and smashed the gate.
Okay.
Yes. And with guys falling off the Prado like angels from the skies. And they moved straight away to the podium. First, they installed their guy. Pop! On the seat. You know, in a movie. They installed the guy. And it's like the meeting happened like nothing was going on. Of course, the guy was given a chance to address whatever. Nobody even said that, how could you enter our meeting like that?
Yeah.
Of course, there was one group blocking. There was another group, there was his own goons now. Pushing him in there. And I've seen this in funerals. I've seen it in many places. And it's very disturbing, really. I mean, because you have, on one side, you've got sets of goons trying to block you from attending funeral. In fact, the funerals are the most notorious, by the way, especially in Luenyanza. I don't know how it is in your place or Mutambo, because there you find that what these guys have done, which is very sad. In my mom's funeral, I had to block them. I had to block all politicians. They were very angry with me. But you know what they do? These guys, number one, they come late.
Yeah.
And they come with the goons. And these villagers are normally just helpless. The goons drop off. They take over. They literally take over the funeral. They grab the microphones, and all these guys who are ready. In fact, they fight people literally, and the politician just addresses people directly. And after he finishes the address, he leaves.
They leave.
In fact, the same goons clear whatever. And I've seen this. In fact, every single funeral I've attended in Nyanza involving a politician has been like that.
Prof, and it's now beyond Prof. It's the Institute of Omenya.
Yes, as agreed last time.
And I ask myself, how did we get here? Because, Joe, I think you'll agree with me that today the most thriving industry is politics. So a politician seems to have an inflated sense of self when they are with the people. Because one, they're deemed to be more moneyed, they may extend favors. Unlike in the Nordic countries, the Institute is speaking about, where people will not care who the minister, who the MP, even the prime minister is. Because one, they may not be necessarily the most moneyed person.
Correct.
So the sense of significance when it comes to the population differs in our country, in our context today. Why do we have such an inflated sense of self from the leaders themselves, such that they feel, one, so insecure they cannot walk alone, or two, too important that they need to be protected against the same people that they
who voted
for them?
There are two things happening here. We have two groups of leadership. And most of the things we are seeing here is a replica of our societal behavior. How is our society? When you compare Africa, not only Kenya, and other developed countries, you'll see significant change or societal behavior. In our country, you would find a dog in the street and you kick it or you throw a stone to it. In America, if you dare do that, you'll go to jail. All right? So this society behave this way. These ones behave this other way. And there are things which make these things happen. Like, how do we behave as human beings towards one another? And how do politicians or leaders behave towards one another? And when you go to history, if it is anything to go by, many activities or many violence have happened in political arena. Many killings, actually.
Correct.
In the political arena. So, your opponent would do anything to take you out.
Correct. Including killing you, actually.
Including killing you.
True.
We've been having so many cases. I don't know whether you've been following. You remember the times of nominations. Because there was a time, if you don't appear during nomination day, you are not a candidate. So, people used to kidnap others. So if somebody plans to do something wrong to you, would you just sit down, or you will work on something to protect yourself in one way or the other? Remember, we are also in a regime, okay? Not a regime, not the current government. We are in a country or in a society whereby
the government in power, anybody who is supporting the government, he has a government machinery. So if you're vying against somebody who is in government, so to speak,
Right.
and you are not in government, the police would support that one in the government. So if something happens to you and you go to report it to the police, nothing happens. Or the person who is in seat, in cabin, he has the connection with the police and everything because he's in power. So you are not in power. You are coming in. All right?
Isn't that
So-
our abuse of office, abuse of our constitution?
That's what I'm telling you now. In that quagmire of abusing the office, would you want to let your life just go like that, or you'd want to protect it?
I would say
If there is a lacuna that I don't feel protected by either the police, all right, because I'm a newcomer, and the person who is there, either he has more money than me, and he has gotten his. And I'm not talking about Kenya. I'm talking about I've gone literally every country in Africa, and I know how they behave. And this behavior is not only in politics. I'll give you a very big, small example, which I need you to take a note and just look at it. Go to Tanzania today. You cannot board a bus. There's no queue. It is everybody for themselves. People running to the buses, even including to the windows. But in Kenya, actually, when Tanzanians come to Kenya, they wonder, how do you queue to board a bus? I'm telling you, I'm talking about societal behavior.
I agree.
But
Given the latest development, Tanzania may not be a point of
Good
reference. But having said that, you see, an eye for an eye makes a blind country. Two wrongs don't make a right.
Correct.
Just because the Institute of Omenya is abusing office and using the police and trying to have goons around him, does not mean we should replicate the same.
No.
So we cannot justify it by
I've just
saying
told you why it is happening.
I agree. So the question is, how did we get here? Because we need to get out of this.
Correct.
The cyclone, the typhoon is building up.
Correct.
We are in the election year. The process is on. You see, the alignment is beginning to happen.
Correct.
So there will be political formations. And one thing we have to get rid of is violence.
Correct.
The political formations need to happen within the law.
Correct.
We need to have an ideological difference.
Correct.
But already you see, the pace we are setting is very unsettling.
Correct.
And so often you hear people making reference to 2007.
Right.
That there might be an eruption of violence. Of course there will not be, because Kenyans are more awoke today. So we need to have the conversation. Why are we here, and how do we get out of this space and sanitize our political discourse moving forward? In the next 65 weeks, we are going to vote.
I will tell you this,
Right.
without fear of any contradiction. This is not a one-man show.
Yes.
And it is not one sector show, that it is only politicians who are doing that or who are doing this. Look at our musicians. When they're entering the podium or the stage, how do they come?
But they don't beat people.
No. We witnessed something here sometime when Diamond was here and what is his name? Willie something? There was a commotion.
Paul.
We follow these things. Even if
Okay.
we don't attend. We look at our behaviors. And I can tell you this. We want this thing to end, it will not happen from the people who are doing it. It is from the people who are sponsoring these activities. And number one, let me tell you, there's something also very bad in this country. When you don't align yourself with the so-called kingpin from your area, now we are talking politics, and I'm a master there. And when the kingpin says, this person is betraying our community, do you know now you have become an enemy of that community? So whenever there is a meeting involving that kingpin and you try to go to that meeting, the community will teach you a lesson. Why? Because our leader said this is a betrayer. We are not given freedom of expression and freedom of association as it is in the Constitution.
Yeah.
You have had several leaders cascading the leaders, elected leaders from their area, that you went to meet with the government, you went to do this, so you betrayed the nation. And this is a leader who has been elected by people to work for the people.
One asks the question then. We look at how the political class moves, as well as Kenyans who allow themselves to be used to be goons, right? And I want to look at what would be the cause of that?
Right.
Poverty has been weaponized.
Right.
To be used at the behest of the political class or those who think they have power and the money to do that. Because even when the political class comes to your burial or your funeral, they come there because this is my area. There's nothing you'll tell me about it. I am the member of parliament here. I have the money and I have the goons, right? So how I ask the question then, have we intentionally made the mwananchi poor so that we can use them the way we want? Because if we take the China route where we say every day we're having a new millionaire, there is no millionaire who will come listen to you and allow themselves to be used by you because they have something that is happening for them. So have we weaponized poverty to a point where we're taking advantage of those that we have disenfranchised to take advantage?
No, thanks, guys. And now let me bring the institution, and you guys can do a quick check. And I need to now discuss with Honorable Tambo here on the basis of scientific study.
Oh, right.
Not just whatever. I did a series of work. They're available online. Unfortunately, it was not funded by the government of Kenya, and this is published on violence in this country. So if you just check quickly later on, maybe on tipping point of urban violence in Kenya, you'll find series of papers on that. We did this as a collaborative study when I was at University of Nairobi with University of Manchester, funded by the UK government, and we did series of work and papers that basically unlock violence, understanding of violence and conflict in Kenya from pre-colonial times to date. And we categorize the nature of violence and conflict from land issues to religious issues, conflicts that are there, all the way to even the domestic ones that you have, and economic ones from poverty and stuff like that. And one thing that when we're framing it, one of the things that is very clear is that it's abnormal to have any society with no conflicts. So conflicts will always be there. And basically society has mechanisms of dealing with conflicts, from those village headmen all the way to maximum security prisons and executions. Societies do have, and the entire legal system and so on. So what was the issue for us? The issue was that every so often violence in Kenya becomes epidemic. Let me use that terminology. A disease can be managed and controlled with a normal health system that we normally have, but an epidemic cannot be. It requires special measures.
Yes.
So the issue is that every so often, violence and conflict in Kenya becomes epidemic. It reaches these scales and proportions that threaten the existence of society as it actually were. One of the things that we checked quite systematically from colonial times to date, when violence became epidemic in this country, what was the trigger? What was the cause? Who tipped it? In all our analysis, it was tipped by politicians.
Politicians.
From colonial times to date, it was politicians, government. Yeah, so whether religious, whether land conflicts, whether racial conflicts, whether ethnic conflicts and so on, when they reached that scale where they could not be controlled, it was always politicians, politics, and government. They're the ones who pick up clan fights, and it becomes epidemic, and people start killing each other. Now we have Kambas and Somalis there. If you start and look at that critically, you'll see the hand of a politician. We had the post-election violence. We're talking about. So in fact, for me, we need to be worried because Mwesh is saying, and correctly so, that we have these challenges in many African countries. But the thing is that in many instances, they're not epidemic. Even in Kenya, our worry is that you saw Mungiki, when Mungiki flipped over and threatened the country. We saw the 2008 and so on. So I think it is really very stupid of us, given that we have the evidence, to assume that Kenya, for some reason, is immune from violence becoming epidemic. We are not. In fact, it can become epidemic even now, really.
But what is it that fuels the notion that it is violence that is going to lead to control? Why is there an appetite for that? And we can look at that in the lead up to a number of things that we see. If we look at what happened with Senator Osotsi, it wasn't let's have a conversation. It was I'm going to beat you within an inch of your life for you to get the message. When goons come, they don't come with their hands together clasped to let's have a conversation. They come with crude weapons. They come to exert a level of control with this. Why is it the violence that's the ingredient?
Let me just make a small comment on that. And I think the one of Tom Ogenda, in fact, Nikal is a very good friend of mine. I didn't want to say both are good friends of mine, but both are known to me. But Tom Ogenda is not my friend. But Nikal is for very many years. And Nikal is a very interesting type of politician. And those politicians are there in this country. They are not loud fellows, but they're there in this country, and they work, and they actually get elected time and time again. I can give several examples in Nyanza of those type of politicians. They don't appear in funerals with goons. They arrive like the Nordic guy, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And some people say hi, and they say hi. Then we have now the other group. So my point is that we do actually have examples of politicians in Kenya who are just busy doing their work.
But where did it start that you need to exert a certain level of violence for control?
That's what I'm coming to. And these guys get elected. These guys are going around the business and so on. And they get elected in these same violent parties and so on. Then we have another group of politicians who are actually misleaders. They're not even leaders in the first instance. They employ goons. They beat up people. They start ethnic violence. They come into with this total divisive politics, and they also do get elected. So my point is that, and most of those Kisumu politicians are like that, by the way. Kisumu has some of the most violent politicians across this country. And even in Nairobi, we see that. So also, we cannot actually say that it's impossible to assert yourself as a politician in Kenya by just behaving decently. We do actually have those type of politicians. But what we are seeing all the way from MCA to national level are basically politicians who are thriving on divisiveness, who are thriving on ethnic mobilization, who are thriving on violence. And if you look at them carefully, they're also the politicians who are not delivering. And I'm not just talking about the MCA. I'm talking all the way to the presidency. People are just doing their work. Kenyans will know, and Kenyans respect that. And that has happened in this country, and that's happening in this country is only that a lot of those fellows don't have voice. And then you have these other guys who are saying, okay, fine, we are the ones who are controlling the ground. And it's always those politicians who are not delivering that go that route. If you do the anatomy and start checking, they're those guys that Honorable Mutambo was talking about. Those fellows who should not have even been leaders in the first instance. They get in leadership position, they're delivering nonsense or nothing for that particular reason. And all they do is to move around with these, is to create a spectacle and move around with these goons and so on, including even the ones that I'm talking about in Kisumu. If you looked at all of them, and I'm not just talking about agenda. There are many others actually. If you look at all of them, they have zero track record. They have you cannot respect them any day. But on the other hand, they assert themselves by actually, projecting violence. They assert themselves by this crude monkey, chimpanzee type dominance, where the only thing that you are pushing there is physical strength. Honestly. I'll make a special prison for you guys if the government will not do.
With all due respect, allow me to say that I appreciate, and I want to start from where you began, about your study and what you came to find out, and who are the initiators and who are the culprit of this violence. You said you came to a conclusion it is politicians.
Who tip it? Sorry. You're not the cause. The causes are very different. We have religious conflicts, we have ethnic conflicts, we have economic issues, we have poverty, we have many things.
I want to differ with you, because if we classify politicians as the real cause, then we will be missing the point here.
You are misquoting me, Mheshimiwa.
Let him just finish.
Let me finish. When we say it is politicians, the perception the people will get is that it is only politicians, and we may not get to the root cause, and we may not cure the issue. I will twist your findings from politicians to leaders, because there are leaders who are not politicians.
Who tip it? Yeah.
There are leaders who are not politicians.
Yeah, you're right.
We have leaders of camel elders. We have leaders of football. We have leaders in other activities, which is not necessarily politics. And I can tell you, the reason why people or where there are conflict, it is because of interest and resources. If a man fights with another man because of a woman, that woman is a resource.
Okay.
All right? If we fight a country to a country, it's because of interest of our resources. And when you look at many conflicts, they come because of interest. It could be money interest, it could be political interest, it could be leadership interest, because politics, I would say, would be everywhere, even in churches. People campaign to be elected bishops and the popes. People campaign to have positions.
Yep.
People campaign even to get some jobs. And their interest. You may be interested to a job, and I may be, so there is interest, we are fighting. So if we get to know the real reason why conflict are there, then we are making a step forward. But the moment we just ring fence it to politicians, then we leave the other guys out, then we are not solving the problem. This issue of the goonism, the goons who come with the...
Yeah.
I am different. Not every politician. I am a politician. And I started politician in 1992. I don't know where you guys were then. 1992. Until today, I'm in this field. And I can tell you, I'm one man who can walk alone in this street. I normally go to Kikomba and do my things there, even without a car, walking. All right? So we have, and we cannot say it is every politician. Maybe from one region, that is their behavior. And I can tell you, what you see in politics, and if you've been having interest in football, and you follow the history of our football from Shabana FC, those days, tell me what has been happening in stadiums, in our stadiums. All right? What has been happening? Those who know, they know. Those who don't know, they don't know. So you may argue that it is politicians because you are seeing it today. But when you go back, even people fighting for land, people fighting for grazing, like what you said, what happened in Ukambani. Actually, to be fair, to be honest with you, that thing was, there was no politician involved in it until it erupted. Because the reason why, because I come from there, and I led that constituency for 5 years. And during my time, it is only one person who was killed. And there was peace. All right? So I partly agree, sometimes politicians and leaders contribute to this conflict. If I were to tell you what happened in Ukambani at the Somalis, because they are our neighbors, it happened because a police officer who happened to be a Mukamba stopped somebody with a vehicle, and that person ran away, and he shot that person. And because now the police was a Mukamba, now the Somalis who are in the Kaba side, they went and massacred 5 people, or 7. All right? On the other end, where I come from, they massacred a school-going kid. So that's why Kamba said, enough is enough, you guys. They blocked the road. So politicians now started coming in. Some inciting, to be honest with you, and I'm very, very disappointed because one of them is my member of parliament who stood up and said, what wangare? So when you tell people to ngara, and here there are some shops for Somalis selling clothes, what do people do?
Yeah, but so that we still contextualize the issue. Because it's an issue of national interest. We all should be concerned. We may want to diversify and say, yes, goonism or politics happen across all sectors in the country, which is true. In farming, in health, wherever you go, in any community or society, even at the family unit, you still find politics. But because politics is not a bad thing, it's a process of trying to have order.
Correct.
In whatever shape or form of a unit you are. Now, as a country, I think we ought to be worried because we are suspending the law. The case you've given of a policeman stopping somebody and then the person runs away and they were shot. I don't know the details, but there is law that's supposed to be followed. Maybe the person was a criminal, maybe they were not. But even if they were not a criminal, it is not upon us as citizens to take now the law into our hand and go killing people. right? The same thing we are saying. If we are having a political contest, you're an aspirant, I'm an aspirant in the same constituency or in the same ward, our engagement ought not to be violent.
Correct.
Because violence always ends with loss of life. Correct. We saw the instance of the Kaspool. What caused the by-election was the death of the sitting member of parliament. During the by-election, the process, there erupted violence. You get? And more people died.
Correct.
So it's not just a conversation. It's about the loss of life. It's about suspension of the rule of law. It's about us organizing ourselves and agreeing that, yes, you may be a seasoned politician, but there is something we say, experience is not competence. Because you realize the same people who have been in that field for far too long, the so-called even kingpins, are the ones who incite the same community, the same groupings. And then a question also comes up, how are we as a country having so many people so ready to be hired for violence? You see, a function that to be performed by the government. If you're going for a meeting, there has to be order, security, and safety. So I think it's a national conversation we need to have in the context of wanting to preserve one, life, order, and peace through this process. Because voting we shall. Again, I say in 65 Sundays, if you're a church-going Christian, you only have 65 Sundays to go to church. Then on 10th of August, we shall vote. On 11th of August, we need to have a country that is still bound together so that we can go back to the challenge you're facing, which is the economic crisis. How do we journey this together?
Like I said before, we need to start from the top, not from the bottom. Because if we class 5 people in our society, if I come associate myself with Spice FM, then leader of Kamba FM says this guy is not ours. And that person has a lot of voice, a lot of say in that community. You know, now you've been profiled, right? So if we could uphold the dignity of our constitution and allow what we call freedom of association, freedom of speech, if that, because constitution has it all.
Right.
If we go that route and we say, if somebody associates themselves with others, we respect them. Because it's all, like I said, it's all about interest. So when I come and invite Professor to my area, then my kingpin feels that I was not supposed to invite Professor because he's a Luo, and the Luos are not supporting us. So it's like I am now betraying the community. When we talk about politics now, all right, then it starts there immediately. And what will happen? Because I also want to say, no, I have my right, I have my life, I can do whatever I want. If you want to kick me out, I'll resist. So how do I resist? I resist by organizing myself, security-wise.
One asked
so
the question.
for us, as I finish,
Yes.
for us to finish this thing, we need to understand where it is coming from. You need to ask yourself, because these people call themselves goons, let me tell you, they are just normal people. The question is, at what point do they manifest themselves from the normal people to now people committing crimes? This is what you need to understand.
One asked the question then. We've talked about kingpins, right? And most of the kingpins we talk about belong to a certain political party. Right. They have movements that they are pushing, even in those regions that they come from. Therefore, if we say that it is the kingpins themselves who are part and cause of the problem, are we saying, therefore, that if we do have political parties that have clear rules that guide how they play politics, we're able to deal with this problem where if, say, this kingpin is pushing this agenda in this party, and it is said from the word go that as a politician belonging to my party, we will not allow you to move with goons, we will not allow you to participate in games of violence, then we start seeing solution. Because if the politicians are stopped from the word go within the political parties, that they are denied tickets to run in those political parties, then we are able to deal with the problem.
Exactly.
Do we start from there?
In fact, that's exactly what you should be doing, because the big problem in this country, if you're to look at it, is that the politician, again, we are not saying that there's no politics, conflict of violence in many places. But like I said before, the one that threatens the fabric of this country is actually political, and politicians are in there.
Yeah.
But then you see the way the politician behaves in this country. Immediately you get elected to office, you become above the law. It's not just the president who's above the law. If you check people overlapping on the roads, it is government and politicians. If you check now the fellows who don't follow protocol, even social protocols like in funerals, is government and politicians. They come whenever they want to do, they do whatever they want to do, and so on. These people even they're even immune from police arrest, where a politician can come and summon the police and tell them to do whatever they need to do outside there. And that same bad behavior goes all the way. It starts from State House, by the way. Every time the president is passing, I get irritated because you feel like the president is going somewhere, and we're already putting in 17 billion there. Why does he need to stop Omenya for 1 hour or 2 hours on the roads because he's passing there? So this whole thing that if immediately you get elected into office, then you become above the law and you become immune at your levels, all the way from MCA to the president. So that is number one. The second thing is that, Mheshimiwa had alluded to that, is that you immediately then start using state machinery at, again, all levels. If you arrive at a police station, you are given a cup of tea. It's almost like some of these banana republics. You can even tell that so-and-so will be arrested and is actually arrested. Because the state machinery is then aligned, to support you. Mind you, you are not the only ones who are contesting in those positions.
Exactly.
In fact, you are 1 out of 10 that got inside there. What are the other 9 doing? The other 9 basically are also organizing their own parallel government to enjoy the same largesse. And that's where the goons come in. Because this guy says, I'm not in government, but those fellows are not going to stop me. The police is not going to stop me. How do they do it? Now we actually come with goons. So I agree 100% with Mwesh on this one, that actually the buck stops with our leaders. Our leaders must start behaving properly, and then, as you're saying, we must start pushing the rule of law all the way into the parties. We're saying, if you come in here with goons, unfortunately, we don't allow you to attend this meeting. There are consequences. But now, if you are the one who come in and then you take over the meeting. I saw this even in ODM. It was sad. Do you remember Men in Black? In Raila's time. Guys actually come in. They beat up everyone. Ballots are torn and so on. And this actually is condoned by the party. The party doesn't say anything about it. And in fact, later on, we realized that these fellows were actually endorsed at the highest level of the party. So we need to sanitize these parties. I do have a member of parliament who's very interesting, actually. I'll not mention his name. But this guy was one of those Nikal type people, very humble and so on. And goons made it impossible for him to even do his campaigns and do all these things. And eventually, what did he do? The guy just offered more money to the goons. So when the nomination day came in, the competitor had no idea where his goons had gone. In fact, his goons were very busy beating fellows on his side. So I mean, this is how ridiculous this thing gets into, that some people are sucked in there who don't even want to be there. But they're saying, since I know the fellows anyway, they are from my constituency, and I know they've been paid, why can't I just pay them more? So, it is that thing where is an eye for an eye, and then this thing just escalates. We need to do what Michuki did with Mungiki. We need to come and say, look here, this has to stop. It doesn't matter whether you supported the state, at some points or not. But what you're getting into is a state of lawlessness, which is very, very dangerous from a conceptual point of view. Because the reason why we have the state is so that, fundamentally, is so that they can monopolize all sorts of violence. When violence is not monopolized, when I can exercise violence and get away with it, when Honorable Mutambu can exercise violence and get away with it, when KTN can exercise violence and that's a threat to the state, actually. It means we can actually take over the state. So government and those in government need to be very, very serious about monopolizing violence. Nobody in this country, nobody outside of the state should exercise violence and get away with it. Where are all these goons? They're just walking around and they're beating people. Where is government?
Professor, there's something I'll say. And I'm not an advocate of the president, neither am I the spokesman. But what I alluded there before, I spoke about our society behavior, how we behave as a society, right? And when it comes now to someone like the president, it has never happened in Kenya, where the president has been assassinated, but there have been some attempts to do so. There have been some violence against the sitting president. We have seen shoes thrown. We have seen bottles thrown. And our society, the way we are, I can tell you, your opponent, and I'm telling you as a politician, your opponent is planning every minute how to take you out, whichever means they don't care. Now, you as a president, also, the state has a responsibility to protect the president of our nation. And it does not happen only in Kenya. Let me tell you. It has, I was in China, let me tell you. I was in China. Right. And when the chairman of the China or the president was passing, here we are talking of 1 hour. Right. We stayed there for 3 hours. 3. 1 hour before he leaves, you are stopped. 1 hour before he gets there, you are stopped. 1 hour after he has passed, you have to wait. All right? So why do they do so? It is to protect their leader. Americans will do anything to protect their president, whether you are in the opposition or in the government. The president must be protected. So even Kenya must protect their own president. I can tell you, if we let it, let me tell you,
nobody's doubting that.
If we let it free the way you want it, the president will just go to Kiamaiko or Karumaindo.
I think that these are based on
nobody's saying that the president should not be protected. That is not the point at all. Yeah. All that is being said here is that, we should actually operate through the confines of the rule of law. And these days are very different, actually. And by the way, some of those examples you are giving are failed societies in their own different ways. This whole idea that the president arrives in a country and then people can't work, the American model, that people can't work in whatever, for the whole day because the president passed by here and there was Air Force One. Those are things that the Americans should deal with, actually. That is not something we should be celebrating in this country in this time and age, Mheshimiwa.
We are not celebrating. We are saying
to come here. That same president goes to campaign to normal people. Why? How come when the president is coming to campaign? How come when you are coming to campaign, you don't say, "Can you chase away people for 1 hour? I do my campaign.
No.
Can we wait for 1 hour when I'm campaigning?
You are getting
and can they come 1 hour after?
Professor,
all I'm saying is an example. It doesn't make any sense.
So what would your point be,
Professor? You are getting it wrong.
What is your point?
You are getting it wrong. When you and I
are campaigning, we can protect our president.
Let me tell you. Let me.
What's your point?
This is my point. When president is in power, okay, let us give him that latitude of being protected by everyone. So let us not complain because we have been stopped because president is passing.
No, that's not the point for debate. That's not the point for debate, really.
Let's come back to what we were saying in this point.
Move to your next point.
That unfortunately, the space in which we are operating now is that folks believe that they can employ violence to push political agenda.
Exactly. That's the issue,
and that it could be supported across board. What we are saying here is that if Kenya goes down the slippery slope of continually using violence as a political tool, you're going to end up with nobody left. And that how do we divorce ourselves from the notion that violence is an acceptable political tool, whereby it's hurting and killing people to an end whereby the very same people that are supposed to be protected under the Constitution are not. It's not acceptable that it's used. It's not acceptable that somebody starts it and then somebody else perpetuates it. It's not.
Exactly.
And so what we are saying is, where did we get to the point whereby the way people use money for campaigns, the way people use the printed material for campaigns, violence is just another political tool. And we're saying that it is dangerous. How do we get away from that? Whether the president is protected, there's a system in place for the highest leader of the land to be protected. That's accepted. Yeah. But what we are saying now is that there are people who support the president. There are some people who don't support the president who are employing violence to push a political agenda, and it can't be.
That's why we say we all agree.
Yeah.
Anybody with sound mind, anybody with sound mind must agree and accept that goonism in our country is a no-go zone.
Yes. Now we're talking.
We need to start from there. Everybody to get and how do we get to the back of their mind, if there is any space, that this violence is not accepted in our society. And everybody becomes responsible.
Yes.
Not a certain group, everyone, including that one who's being hired. Okay? Number two, when I said Because I know how it works and how it starts.
Correct.
All right? Because if this is my kingpin and I support him, and he makes some pronouncement, because I want to show him that I offer support,
Right.
I will organize something towards what he commanded. If we don't want Professor here, and you know because he's the kingpin, he will not do it. Because I'm his mass supporter, all right? I'm the one, I want to show him that my kingpin, I support you very much, so Professor will not come here. I'll make sure it does not come here. You see those kind of things?
Correct.
So if those are corrected,
Correct.
and I like giving example. There was an incident in Mwingi. Allow me to use my place, because that's where I come from. Whereby a member of parliament stands on a podium, insults his fellow candidates in vulgar language. Vulgar language.
Right.
And what does the party leader say? He tells him, well done.
Could that be the problem?
That's a problem.
Those are some of the problems we're having. And we need to address them without fear or favor.
Yes.
You know, some people will not talk about it because they fear when I go to my place, I'll say it and I'll tell a king you are naked.
Okay, and I think that we get to the point where we need to call certain help. We have a few seconds to go.
Exactly. And I think another good recent example that you can look at is what happened in Kikuyu. I think it sort of illustrates some of the challenges that we have. That DCP is having their rally there. I have a friend of mine who they're in a group of medical doctors who go for a run in Kikuyu. And believe it or not, these people were actually attacked at 5 in the morning. At 5 in the morning, there were already thugs who had been mobilized on both sides, by the way. DCP had his thugs, ensuring that whoever comes, the place is cleared. And then there were the other thugs. Of course, there were also the police there, you know, trying to block DCP from having their rally. And what we saw there was a big clash. And I think one of the points I'm trying to put there that is very, very critical for me, and I think I need to really, really highlight it, is, again, government should not be associated or even allow thugs to help them do their work.
There you go.
Really, it is basically, you know, giving away our sovereignty.
Absolutely.
And this is something that's happening around where people feel these thugs belong to government, or are protected by government, or are condoned by government. And I think government has a big, big obligation, especially with regard to the opposition, or those who are seen in the opposition. Government, we are all paying our taxes to government. They're the big boys in this particular relationship, and they're the ones who should say, look here, we are going to guarantee. We are going to guarantee safety and security to the entire opposition. And should you dare interfere, we are going to lock you up.
They have to be the first ones to say it,
they must be.
essentially.
Yeah, thank you.
Come to the end of our conversation. I think it's very clear that there are things that are unpalatable and should not be the case, and we should advocate for them across border. The Institute of Professor Alfred Omenya, Policy and Governance Expert.
Spice FM.
Joe Mutambu, thank you for joining us in this conversation this morning. Asante Sana.
Thank you for doing a good job.
Asante Sana.
Actually, what you're doing, I would say it's one step towards capping this problem.
Exactly.
Asante Sana.
Exactly.
And people need to be tolerant to the others.
Correct.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much. We continue with conversations. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.